Hello friend, welcome back. In our previous video, we successfully complete our edit portions, right? So now we have to update it. So update it will be just like that same condition what exactly we did that before, and there is a submit button, right? So better I want to do and to change it, and also here we have to add one of the route for this one as update route, right? And also here we have to update it with a specific one of the ID. Because of all here there is one of the requested ID, so this will be updated also with our this student ID, right? So perfect, we get this data with this student ID. Now we have to update this data with this student ID, so that is in our edit page. Now go to our edit page. So into the edit page, first of all I want to do and to check that our value that will be as update. Okay, that will be as update, and that is our submit, and that is our form. First of all, that is the route, right? So now I want to do and to make it as a update. Okay, update user student registration, and after that also we have to update it with a specific one of the ID. So now with our this edit data, right? So with this edit data I want to update it with our same, that will be as a our this student underscore ID, right? So we have to update it with our this student ID. So now I name it as a student underscore ID. Perfect. Now we have to create this route. Now go to our web route, and that will be obviously one of the post method. Better I copy it, paste it, and that will be as a post. Our post method, that will be as a registration update, and then our ID. So here I have already added this ID, that will be our student ID, right? So that will be our student ID. Perfect. And then our route name I have already added as update student registration. I copy it, and that will be as update student registration. And then our method will be as a student registration update, right? So now we have to create this in our student registration controller. So better if you go to our student registration, that will be just like our store. Okay, that means our student registration store. Better I copy total things from here. Okay, I copy total things, I copy it, right? So that is our end method, and that is our student registration method. I copy it, and then here I paste it. So right now first work is we have to update our this method. So our method right now we are using as a student registration update. So that will be as a student registration update, and that is one of the post method. For the reasons here we have to pass that as a request, and the request and $request, and then also we have to pass our this requested ID. So that will be after this I add that requested ID. Okay, so right now friend, here we don't need to check it. Okay, so right now we don't need this. Better I close total things. I remove everything from to this position, and then there is a request, and into the request area also here we have to pass our this request, that means requested ID. So here make that sure we updated that part, that means it's request, our requested ID in our DB transaction. I take it, and then there is a final also, we don't need this. And then the code generate, because right now we don't need to create any code generate. We need that is our final ID, we don't need this ID. There is a password, we don't need this. Okay, and then the user type that will be by default as a student, so also here we don't need this, right? So, and also there is a code is also don't need this. Better I remove everything. Okay, I remove everything from here. Perfect. And then right now that new user will be not needed, because here we have to update it, right? So for the reasons here we don't need that new user. I want to update it, so that will be with our user model. So with this user model I put another condition. Our condition will be what? Our condition will be our user table ID. User table ID will be our requested ID, right? So our requested ID right now as a student ID, so that will be our student ID. Perfect. And when it will be matched, then I get that fast data, so that will be as a fast data. Okay friend, I hope it is very much clear to you. And then I want to update that name, father name, mother name, mobile number, address, gender, religion, and then the DOB, date of birth, And the images here we have to actually unlink one of the image, right? Because of all right now in our database there have already existing one of the image. So I did the same work in our profile. If you go to that our profile controller, into the profile controller, you can see I have already used the same condition, so I just simply copy it. So right now we don't need this. So because of all right now I have already existing new one, right? Before that was actually empty. So right now our old image will be unlinked. So that is in our upload folder, and then that is our student images. From to the student images there is a data. So right now that will be not data, that will be our user image, right? Perfect. So our existing image will be deleted, and then it will be restored it again. That's all we have to add for our user. Okay, after that it will be saved that user. Okay friend, I hope it's very much clear to you. And then our assign, that means our new assign table. So before we insert this data into the 3 table, right? And then our assign student, so that will be also not insert this data newly, so it will be actually updated it. So here one things we have to do, like there is a cloud student ID with this user ID, right? So friend, here I want to add one of the another field with this ID. I want to actually update it. Okay, that means a specific one of the ID actually it should be updated, right? So better in our student, into the student edit. So the student edit I want to pass one of the hidden input, better after that CSRF. Okay, after that CSRF, here I take one of the input field, and input type will be as a hidden. Okay, I name it as a hidden, and I name it as a ID. And then here that value will be the same. Value will be our edit data, that means the dollar and then edit data, and with this edit data I want to access our student ID. So here I want to pass that our main student ID. Okay, so I just simply pass it, and that will be our field name. So with this now I want to update it that our assign table, that means our assign student table. So right now we don't need this. I close it, and I want to put one of the condition within our assign student table. Into the assign student, here I put that where our this ID. Okay, that means in our assign student ID, when it will be matched with our requested ID. So here there is request, and this request, our requested ID, I pass that name as a ID. Okay, so that will be actually this one as a this ID, and also I have to put another condition as a where, and where our same student underscore ID, when student ID will be matched with our this request student ID, that means that is actually our requested student ID, right? Also when it will be matched, then it will be updated. Okay, it's perfect. And then it will be, I make it as a fast, so that will be as a fast data. Okay, so that will be as a fast. Perfect. That means only fast data will be updated. Okay, so for the reasons here I simply updated that part. ID will be our requested ID, where student ID will be our requested ID. Then I want to get updated our fast data, and then assign student year data will be updated, class data will be group shift, and then save. Perfect. So that is for our assign table, that means assign student. And for the discount, here only I want to update that one field, right? That is a discount field. So right now we don't need both of this. Better from here I remove both of this, and only that will be the same. That is not the new data. I want to put that condition where, okay, where our this discount table, if you go discount table, this assign ID will be matched with our this same requested ID. Okay, when it will be matched, then I want to updated it. That means I want to get update with the fast ID. So that will be our assign student underscore ID. So I make it as a assign student underscore ID. Sorry, assign student underscore ID, when it will be matched with our request, that means the same, the request ID. With this actual request ID I want to updated a specific one of the row ID, right? So that will be our fast, that will be the fast. Perfect. And then it will be updated our discount. Okay, so assign student ID where perfect. So it's perfect, and then the notification will be displayed as a student registration updated successfully, and then it will be redirect to our student registration view page, right? So that is our student registration view page. Perfect. So it will be updated. That's all. Okay friend, that's all. So that portion is for our discount. Okay, so and this portion is for our assign student table, this portion for our user. Okay, perfect. So now let's check this out. If you click the save all, and now I go there, if everything okay, it should be work. Now there's a refresh. So I updated our student name. Okay, I updated that student name, updated the father name, mother name, mobile number. If you want to add that address, and you can change anything. Okay, you can make it as a right now as a Christian. So that's all. So now if you click as a update, and here it's now getting one of the error as a creating default object from empty value. That is actually this type of one of the messages you will get if you have any issues in your ID. Okay, that means the appropriate ID, maybe I did something wrong. Then in our assigned, here you can see there is assigned, maybe they have some issues in here. Better I go to our controller, into the controller, that is our assign. I name this year, class, group, everything look like great. So as I told you, actually maybe I did something wrong in my ID because of all I know that error. So when you actually getting this type of the error as a empty value, that means the default object empty value. So that means I have some of the issues in my ID. Okay, that means here I did that appropriate ID. So this ID means in our exercise assign student table ID will be our requested ID, right? And where our student ID will be matched with our requested ID, and that is our requested ID. I have already updated in our edit. So to the edit, I take one of the input as a type as a hidden name. I name it as ID and value. So with this, you can see I use it as a student ID. That will be actually our request ID, right? That request ID means that will be our ID. That means this assigned ID. So obviously it will be as ID, not that is student ID. Okay, maybe that is actually the things I did wrong. Now let's check this out. If you click the save also, friend, problem is doesn't matter. Okay, you have to actually face a lot of the time with the problem with the issues. So a lot of the issues will be comes up, so you have to actually find out that appropriate position why this is actually happening. So now I just click the refresh it again. Better I refresh it, and now I want to update this father name, mother name, the date, and also I want to change that as a better I want to make it as a Christian right now. So that is the data I want to update. Okay, now if you click as the update, yes, you can see so that is actually our main issues. You can see now our student registration updated successfully. So now if you check it again, now I select it, now go to our class 2 maybe, search it. Yeah, you can see it's now perfectly updated. Now if you click as edit it again, so you can see student is updated, that is our father name updated, mother name updated, mobile number updated, and also I updated that religion. Okay, that means here we successfully complete that our student edit option also. So friend, now in our next video I want to discuss about the promotion. Okay, because in our next work is to have to create that as a student promotion. Promotion is very much important. Like when right now this student may have actually in our 2019. Okay, so after that next year this student ID will be updated. That means this student ID will be promoted from to the year 18 to 2000, and after that also the class will be updated as a class 2 to 3, right? So how can make it, that means how can create that promotional activities for one student? In our next video I will show you that things with a live example. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.